Hey Flea fam, welcome to another episode of You,
Me,
and the Flea. Happy Thursday, everybody. We are back with a very special guest this episode that we are so excited to introduce everyone to. And it's been a long time coming, so please welcome President of Swap-O-Rama, Mr. Ted Joseph.
Thank you.
The crowd goes wild.
Are we on television?
you will
We're
be.
recording, yeah.
You're not live.
Oh,
We're not live,
if you say anything crazy, I can take it out.
good.
But thanks for being here with us, Ted. We really appreciate your time. As you know, working here, we're very passionate about this project. And so getting your insights and sharing it with our world today is really exciting for us. So welcome.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So if you can first start off by kind of telling us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I get to see you mostly every day for the past quite a few years. But yeah, tell the folks out there kind of maybe who you are and how the heck did you get to be president of a flea market?
Yeah, great question. I ask myself that every day. How did I get here? And, how did it happen? But I'm usually not big about talking about myself, so this is
I was gonna say
challenging.
You're like a very humble guy.
Well,
from what I've known over the last couple of years.
Thank you.
Well, we like to talk about ourselves, so you can.
Yeah, so
maybe
you're gonna have to open up today.
So I'm not a big eye guy, but I think in this case I'll have to be an eye guy. Well, I started in public accounting. That was my background, a degree in accounting. And when I got out of the Navy in 1972, the two of you weren't even an idea at that point. But that was during the Vietnam era, and I was in the Navy after college. And then entered the world of public accounting, and then worked towards a master's degree in tax at DePaul. And then went to work for a CPA firm in Evanston, and after a number of years became a partner there. And after several years after that, I realized I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to start my own firm, which I did with two other people. And that firm today is about 100 or 110 people. Very proud of it. I retired from that firm in January of 2016. And an opportunity surfaced later that year to come and run the old SwapORama company before it was acquired in 21 by the current ownership. I was asked to come run the company, and part of that job was to sell the company as well, because the company was owned by an estate. A husband and wife duo that had no beneficiaries other than a charitable organization. So it took me three and a half years to sell the company. But while I was in that process, I was also tasked with running the company. Mm-hmm. And when I took over in the fall of 2016, the company was kind of in a downward spiral, both from a revenue perspective, a visitor perspective, and vendor perspective. And the properties themselves were kind of in disrepair. And again, no criticism towards the former ownership. They had owned it for a long time. They had done extremely well financially, and just kind of letting it run. Mm-hmm. I put together a team, and that team put together another team. And I'm happy to say today, several years later, we're having record visitors, record revenue, record vendor count, and it's an initiative that's been done by a great team. I mean, a company's only as good as the people who work there. So in September of 21, the company sold to a group of people. I happen to be one of those people as well. And we're running the company. We've acquired 2 flea markets in Florida. So we now have 5 flea markets, 3 in the Chicagoland area and 2 in Florida. And we're looking to expand our footprint should the opportunity come up. So here we are, July 9th?
Yeah.
Can you believe it? It's about to be August.
2024.
Yeah.
And that's the brief history
I'm
of
sweating because he said that so casually, like, and that was like the most like achievements I've heard in 3 minutes, I think, ever. That is so crazy to me that just, casually we did mergers and acquisitions.
Well, there were a lot of
so
things
much going on.
There were a lot of things in between. I kind of
Yeah.
capsulized everything. From growing a CPA firm from 2 or 3 people to 70, 80, 90 took a lot of work and effort. But again, I had wonderful partners and a wonderful staff. And again, not to be biased, but I wasn't going to enter this without a right-hand person. And that right-hand person happens to be one of my sons, Justin Joseph, who has been fantastic. And he put together a team which brought the two of you here. And so, as I said, it's a long story, but it's a good story. And, I feel at this point in my career, I don't want to say I'm in the sunset of my career, but the window's closing rather than opening. And, Justin and the rest of the team are looking to grow this company. As I said, he's recently become the president of our association. And through that affiliation, opportunities may come up with other large markets in the country that are looking to sell. So, we want to take advantage of that. We're positioned to grow. Our partners want to grow. But again, to find a flea market of size and of profitability is a challenge.
Yeah. I think too what's so interesting about this is you kind of mentioned it was an opportunity that was presented to you. Were you kind of like, what the heck? Did you ever go to a flea market? In accounting, I'm sure maybe you even saw some numbers of that. I don't even know. Kind of what was your thoughts on flea market?
Well, that's a good question. So in January of 2016, when I retired from the CPA firm, I was going to be selling some time back to the firm and travel the winter and so forth. And when this phone call came from the attorney for the estate and asked me to consider doing, running things, I gave him a wish list of about 10 things and said, I want to travel in the winter with my wife. I need a right-hand person.
Yep.
I need to be able to work remotely when I'm not in the office, and a bunch of other things, and it was all yes, 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 yes. So in the fall of 2016 is when I joined the company, I had visited a flea market years ago, the one up near Milwaukee called 7 Mile Fair, and it was always a fascinating, fun afternoon. You see some cool things, you see some uncool things. You see
it all.
Yeah.
You see,
You'll
just
see
the
it
people,
all.
you could just go to People Watch.
You see interesting vendors and the interaction between people and the negotiation and the bargaining. So, I knew what a flea market was. I think many people think when you mention flea market, they think of a schoolyard and a PTA selling a bunch of stuff to raise money for the school or the church or whatever. Whereas, we run flea markets that have significant size, obviously, and draw a couple million visitors a year. So, on this grand scale, there's just so many moving parts and pieces between, keeping the property and, in good repair, and the parking lot, and making sure people are safe, and the security and the cleanliness, and making sure vendors get along with each other. So, so anyway, there's a lot of stuff.
There's
lots of moving parts, definitely.
I didn't think, there was that many moving parts myself when I was presented the opportunity. And then when I went, I was like, okay, this is like, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Like in my head, it was same thing, so different. Like just a couple random people like selling out of their trunk.
Right.
That's like what I had envisioned.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And then
you know the interesting thing is that I've learned in the flea market space is that many flea markets, their genesis was years ago when a mom and dad would look to raise some extra money for the household. They would go out in the country and start selling things, and then suddenly that kind of morphed into other vendors coming. And what happened years ago was these flea markets popped up all over the country in rural areas, and then as time went on, those rural areas are no longer rural. You know, the cities and towns nearby have expanded and grown, and suddenly the land has become so valuable that it's more valuable than the flea market. So we're seeing that. So, you know, when I first got involved here and was tasked with selling the company, I think the one thing that I had to keep in mind were the wishes of the husband and wife who owned this company, in that they felt a strong responsibility to the vendors who sold at their flea markets. And at that time there were only the three in Chicago. And they felt a certain loyalty and responsibility to these vendors, because these vendors were basically there to earn extra money to help support their family, and wanted their kids to go to college. Most of these folks, you know, did not have a college education, and in many cases not a high school education. So they were working to better their lives and their families and their kids. So there was a strong moral responsibility that they felt, and I felt it too, because it would have been much easier for me to come in and find a developer and sell the 3 properties here, because they're significant size, you know, 30 acres, 28 acres, and 6 or 7 in Melrose. But sell that real estate and have a developer or a warehouse company come in, but didn't want to do that. Didn't want to do that. So we're kind of carrying on what the former owners wanted. And I tell you, it gives I think our organization great satisfaction and joy to see these people, you know, making a living.
Sure.
And I think it's really critical for not only those families, but the neighborhoods we're in, the communities we're in, and things like that.
Yeah, I think too, just to kind of add on, the original owners were a husband and wife, as Ted mentioned. I personally didn't meet them, but what I hear is they were a very dynamic duo that, like you said, just had such a big heart for what they did, especially the flea market. And I will speak on knowing you. You also have that quality. And so I know that, you know, at the forefront, we're always in some of these meetings, always, you know, thinking about the vendors, thinking about everyone on the ground, from employees to whoever it is. And I think that, you know, speaks a lot towards you as a leader. So yeah, kudos to you on that. You're definitely keeping that alive. And I think there were a lot of, you know, rumors at the time too of, you know, when anyone hears something is selling or closing,
somebody has a new owner,
you immediately just get scared and terrified.
You think
and
the worst.
Yeah.
And I think too, for like the vendor standpoint, hearing that there's a new owner or a new business partner, I'm sure a lot of them had some type of like anxiety knowing maybe their job is not going to be here tomorrow. And I think it's really special that, you know, you have kept those same values from the previous owner, but you've also made your own. You know, you've made little changes, but change happens. Change is good. Right. You don't want to stay doing the same thing.
They're more like upgrades, I would say. Yeah,
upgrades for sure. But I think the actual true meaning of like what they wanted, you've totally kept.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think we have, you know, we want to keep the spirit of SwapORama what it was and improve it and make it better. And again, you know, we face challenges today that they didn't
Right.
face, the pop-up of dollar stores and general stores and vendors who just pop up on the street and the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Yeah.
There just are a bunch of new challenges, but we have to face them and figure out a way to deal with them and respond to them. But again, the spirit, I think, of the company is that, we love what we do. We love the business. We love our vendors. We appreciate the visitors and our employees and our staff. And we try to, make it as pleasant an environment as possible, to the best of our ability.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's definitely a big stigma around, flea markets are going to die off. Amazon's taking over, this, that. As you mentioned, dollar stores are popping up left and right. What are kind of your thoughts?
The dollar store is not the dollar store
It's
anymore.
not. It's $1.25 now.
No.
Yeah.
Like, you can't find anything for $1. I am curious with technology and everything.
Yeah.
Like, where do you see the flea market industry going? Where do you see maybe swap? High level, obviously.
Yeah, good question. So, again, I think in the financial analysis I've done going back and going forward, as I do projections going forward, and particularly looking at the history and the numbers, I don't think the flea market business is ever going to leave. That's a bold statement, perhaps at some point in 50 years. But I think there's always a niche for that type of business, particularly because I have found it to be recession-proof, inflation-proof. The goods and services that are available at these flea markets just are not going away. And for goods that people buy, produce that they buy, the prices are always much more competitive than a supermarket. And these people, the vendors are constantly changing and looking for new products. And Amazon's here and it's not going away, that's for sure. But that's good. I think it's good for our business. And the dollar stores, as you said, Rachel, it's tough to find something for $1. And many of them are closing. The corporate offices of General and Dollar said they're starting to close stores because everything's $2, $3, $4, $5. And again, it was a fad and a trend. And but again, it forced us to look at other opportunities and avenues to increase our revenue and make our business more attractive.
Yep.
And that's where the two of you have come in with special events and which I love. I love for families and kids to come and experience different things. And it's trial and error. Not everything works, obviously. But
definitely.
Yeah.
What are some things that you think set apart SwapORama from other flea markets?
Another good question. Boy, you guys are smart. Jeez.
Hey, the people want to know.
Well, I think we have.
Come on, Ted. Open up for us.
I think we have smart people. I think we have creative, smart people who are all on the same page. That we have the same goal, and I don't think there are any egos that get in the way, which is huge.
Yeah.
It's just to me, it's a great environment, and because of that environment, we're looking for new ways and new opportunities, and we'll continue to do that and spend the money to do it. And that's where I think we're a little different than not only other flea markets but many other businesses. I have no qualms about budgeting or spending dollars that may provide a positive return. I'm not looking to squeeze every penny out of $1, but again, manage responsibly, fiscally responsible, but look for other ideas to grow the franchise, so to speak. So,
all right. Do you have any, if you can talk about them, maybe some goals in mind for the flea market in general?
Well,
maybe before, after.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm kind of I don't want to say winding down, but certainly.
We don't blame you. Gosh, I would have been.
Serious,
I said I was retired. I'm retired. You know
JJ,
what I mean?
take over. Take over, honey.
Yeah,
it's been nice. But
I gotta go.
Turks is calling my name, guys. Gotta go.
Gotta get to the beach. Huh?
I'll be in Europe for the next 6 months.
Yeah, look, Justin has been a stud, and he's a people person. He's a problem solver. We make a good team. He's on the ground, and he's got a great supporting cast behind him. I look at the financial piece of the company, manage that, do the projections, deal with any financial issues that come up with our banks. And again, I want to be in a position that when I walk away, I'm ready to. Yeah. That I know this company's going to be.
You feel good about it, like you
hands.
feel good to leave.
Right. And that day is going to be the not too distant future, I suppose. But again, I'm enjoying what I do, and again, I'm not a big eye guy, but we are delivering results to our investors. We are delivering more than their expectation was, and that's what I like to do. And it's only done because we have a great team and a great staff, and we're constantly doing the things I talked about before, looking for new opportunities, looking for new vendor creative ideas, bringing a younger demographic to the markets, which the two of you have been dynamite about, and bringing younger families and kids, introducing them to the flea market, so it's not just the old cockers walking around the market. Yeah. So that's really the lifeline of this business, is new faces, new vendors, getting kids involved, and again, making it more of a family experience for a couple hours on a Saturday or Sunday. That doesn't cost
an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
Taking a family of 4 to a Cubs game or a Sox game or a Bulls game.
$250 plus.
Oh, minimum.
Plus.
Minimum. Yeah, you're talking a lot of money with hot dogs and Cokes. I mean, how does a family of four do that, or 3 or 2 or whatever?
Yeah.
And so, we want to make it a fun time, but again, it's because of a staff and a team like you guys and the rest of the staff. So
I have a question. So first, congrats, because I don't know if you know this, but You Mean the Flea, Swap TV, is like the first ever podcast in the flea market industry. My question for you is, what were your thoughts when Kristina presented the idea to you? Honestly? Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Hey, we're just talking like friends here.
You didn't have a choice, really.
Yeah, that's true. Number one, Kristina said we're doing it.
There wasn't really debate.
And again, the world is you guys. The future are smart, young, dynamic people who are always looking for new ideas. And here's an old business. The flea market business has been around forever and ever. And, Kristina introduces a new concept, like, what, a podcast for flea market? What? And now it's kind of morphed into, what you guys do on a weekly basis, and going to markets and introducing vendors. And it's great. I love it. And, I look forward to any other avenues this may take us to,
Yeah. As a leader, obviously, for multiple locations, being torn, and then, obviously you need to have a personal life too. How do you kind of juggle all of this? You're a dad, you're a grandpa, you're a husband,
a CEO.
Yeah. How do you do it?
Wow, I'm tired listening to that.
Tell us the secrets.
Look, you just manage your time. You look at your day, and you allocate the time necessary for each of those things. And again, as you get older in life, your priorities sometimes change. But nevertheless, I need to keep busy, active, and involved, and that's why I enjoy to work. I enjoy working. I still enjoy what I do, And I think when that day comes, hopefully I'll know it beforehand.
Yeah.
And if I'm not delivering the results I expect of myself, I will hopefully say this is it, which is kind of what happened, in my CPA firm. I knew I was done. Mm-hmm. It's something you just know.
It's like a feeling, like you got to move on.
Yeah, and one of my favorite partners who took over my role as managing partner, I told him several years before I retired, tell me when it's my time to go. When you look in my office and say, hey, he's not doing what he needs to do, I don't want to wait for that.
Sure.
But make sure if I don't recognize it, tell me. And
sure.
Fortunately, I recognized it, and when I told him, he said, good, I was about to tell you. Time
to wrap it up.
Yeah. Actually, now that you mention it, See ya. What even made you go into the accounting direction? Is that just kind of what?
Well, I wasn't smart enough to be a lawyer or a doctor, so...
Definitely could have, Ted, with your expertise.
It's a long story.
Attention to detail.
Yeah, it's a long story. My ex-brother-in-law, one of my favorite human beings of all time, was an accountant, and he mentored me through high school and college because I was ready to drop out of high school. I hated school at that time, but... he encouraged me to go on, and because of him, I ultimately wound up being in the accounting profession.
Would you agree that some of the most successful maybe points of your life have involved very supportive people in your inner circle, whether that's family, a wife? For me, I just know as like a business owner.
Yeah.
I could not get through things if I didn't have that strong support system kind of in the back of my head.
Yeah.
It makes it easier.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't know what you're doing.
It's a good point. So when I was 40 years old, I made a decision to leave the firm I was with and start my own. So, that was kind of a major move at 40 years old. I had 3 little kids at home and a wife and a mortgage and little to no money. And my wife at the time said, I'm going back to work full time. So you talk about support. She said, I know you're going to make it. And I know you're going to build a firm and I know you're going to be successful, but I'm going to go. So, that was huge.
Wow.
So
she did that so you could fulfill your dreams.
So she went back to work full time and totally helped with the financial piece while I tried to grow a business. So, I had her support. I had the support of some very close friends who told people about me and suddenly, I was getting more and more business. So you need that.
You do.
Unless you're born into it.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people aren't. Not anymore.
No, and even if you're born into it, many have to do it on their own. But when you really have to do it on your own, you got to do it on your own.
Yeah.
So the support of that and again, the kids were a great motivation. You look at them and you got to feed them and clothe them, and
don't want to let them down.
They wanted Nike shoes back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. All the
That's
things.
when Nikes were $30 or $40, not $200.
Not anymore.
Yeah,
$200 is like the minimum
base price.
Unless you go to a flea market.
That's right.
Yes, exactly. You can find
some used Nikes.
That's right.
Used Nikes.
Used Nikes. Yeah. No, nice. And I'm curious to kind of hear your thoughts on if you were telling someone about SwapORama, just in general. What are some words that maybe come to mind, or
as a
whole, if someone never heard of it?
Well, it happens occasionally when I kind of hang out at Pisano's at night.
You're at a fancy dining.
What do you do? Well, I work for a flea market company. Oh, a flea market company.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny, And, and if they start probing and asking questions, I'm happy to share. And some people do, and I said, they're large flea markets, 900 vendors, 1,000 vendors.
We're not in the back alley.
Yeah, right. And then, what happens if it's raining? Well, we have indoor and we have outdoor. It's a hard concept if someone has never been to one or gets it. So that part is kind of fun, and I'm big on handing out free passes to people. Any bartender I meet or waiter in the city gets free passes. So
love that.
It's
fun. Yeah, it's,
I will say
you have to see it.
Which I think, hopefully, part of your podcast and your concept is educating people too.
Right.
Again, I don't know how social media works, but if they're flipping on it and they say, "Holy cow." Flea market,
exactly.
That looks like fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, like look at these two dancing around the fruit.
Let's jump in the car and go to the flea. And,
exactly. All right, let's get into some funner questions. If you were a vendor at a flea market, what do you think you would be selling?
Wow.
I love this.
I'm actually so interested to hear your response here.
It's not going to be that exciting, Rachel. So, I don't know. I would probably want to sell sports memorabilia.
Yeah, right.
We're a little light on that, I think, at our markets. The Florida markets have a few vendors that do that, but the Chicago markets, I think, are kind of light on sports memorabilia. Baseball cards, basketball cards, vintage
clothing,
jerseys.
Yes, agreed.
And that would be another area I would want to explore, as the vintage, and that's gained so much popularity now. But vintage sporting goods, I think, could be a hot item
right now. Yes.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
And would you love the hunt of it all? And
I don't know if I'd like
buying
that.
And then reselling.
I don't know.
Because there's a lot of work in that antique and resell. I think that's why a lot of people don't do it.
Yeah. It's locating the product and identifying it and buying it at a price where you can resell and still make some money.
Right. You still have ROI. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's what I would do. I think
I love it.
That would be it. Yeah.
Ted's a big sports guy, guys, if you didn't know. He loves his sports.
I love to watch sports.
What is one of the best finds you've bought at the flea market?
Well, I have to tell you that one of our Florida markets, the one in Webster, Florida, has a whole section of antiques, antique vendors.
Really cool antiques.
Yeah, they I love the old cars. They have some great old signs. I bought a couple old posters, and just neat stuff. Old telephones, and again, not just a few things here and there. And if you look around our office, to someone's chagrin, where you have a few things hanging here, an antique airplane, and I have some.
Is that from the flea?
Yeah, from Florida.
That is. I always wondered if that was just like something from your childhood.
Listen, if it was up to Ted, there'd be. There'd be a lot of things hanging from the ceiling.
With the vendor's name and
exactly.
I love that.
That airplane is probably 75 years old.
Yeah,
and,
so cool.
Yeah, so we got that in Webster, had it shipped up here, and
I was going to say, there's no way you brought that back on the plane.
No.
He would have if he could.
Yeah. So, the Webster market is particularly, for me, a lot of fun. I like what the vendors have for sale there. Some of the things I don't agree with, but nevertheless, as long as it's within the confines of the law, of local law, that's fine.
The dynamic there is very different. It's
okay, and I guess I'm wondering how, because I've never been there. So what are they? Why is that your favorite? What are they selling? I guess a lot of antiques.
Yeah, and I think the two of you hopefully will. That's on your radar to go there and do some podcasting or whatever. It's just an assortment. Different goods than we have in the Midwest, and maybe because it's always nice weather.
I was going to say,
Florida.
Do you think that has a lot to do with it?
I do. I think that's a big piece. Is the weather is always nice, so I think the vendors tend to be a little, again, just sell different things.
Correct.
Some of it's much the same as up here, but there are many that just have some unique things, like motorcycle parts.
Yeah, that's what Kristina was telling me.
Because, we have a motorcycle rally there once a month, and we have a swap meet for motorcycle parts. You really don't have that here because of the winter and the bad weather. So things like that, some antique car parts. Car shows are big down there because, again, the weather's always nice. People drive their collectible car much more regularly than up here. So it's just a different type of merchandise.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot of snowbirds there.
Yeah.
So, folks are coming from New York, they're coming from Connecticut, they're coming from the coast and things, and setting up RVs and all of that. And so they just have different merchandise that we don't normally see here in Chicago or even Florida. And so it's just really fun to see kind of that dynamic unfold.
Yeah. So it's again, and the demographics, as you say, it's a different customer base, and, and we hope that our vendors and encourage our vendors to have goods and provide services and have goods that appeal to the demographic of our market, the visitors to our market. So that's why, again, it's a little different mix in Florida than the Midwest.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so where do you see yourself?
When?
In the next 5 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. I know we've kind of touched on it too, that you're, always thinking about whatever, but just Swap as a whole. Yeah. Where do you think we're going to go?
Well, again, I hope that the future for Swap is growth and expansion, and that we go from 5 markets to 6 and 7, and that's really the next generation, past me. I have to be honest, the last couple of years we've explored some possibilities. I've run projections on, what it costs to set up a flea market, what the infrastructure costs are, what the return on that would be in terms of number of vendors and parking and local licensing and dealing with the local government, which is a big piece of this business. I just touched on a few things that, we think about here, but we're dealing with each community, city of Chicago. It's a challenge at times, but we've learned to navigate that. So all our communities, we try to be a good citizen, a good neighbor, support local events. But, we looked at one area where they didn't want a flea market, but, again, the connotation of the flea market is people perhaps selling out of the back of a pickup truck.
Stigmas.
It's the whole, even when Kristina brought me on, the whole idea of what is a flea market, I hate it. It's so different now. A flea is so fun.
Yeah, so we identified a community in the area that we really felt strongly about wanting to explore developing a flea market. And I met with the mayor of the community, and the mayor was adamantly opposed to a flea market for whatever reason. He was hoping to develop it as an entertainment set, this piece of land, this piece of real estate. The realities are people aren't putting up hotels in kind of blue-collar communities, which this is. And I tried to explain to the mayor and his administrative team, we generate revenue for your community. We generate sales tax. We generate jobs. We generate property tax.
Entertainment. That is entertainment. Yeah. People are coming there.
Yeah. So again, when we went to put up electronic signs at Alsip and Ashland and Melrose, and I had to give up my pitch to the local city council and tell them, we contribute this amount of revenue to your community, the sign could even add to it because we could draw, they understood that. Yeah. They get it because we're already there, and they see that we generate revenue. So where do I see it? Again, it's a process, identifying the property, the location, negotiating the deal that will work for us. And again, I'm not in this industry, I think one bit of advice I'd give to someone is don't lease the land. You got to buy the real estate. So no one can say, hey, you have to leave. Right. You've put in all this money, all this effort, all this, the following, the vendors, the visitors, and then the landowner says, gee, I'm selling it. You're out.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, and it's happened to people in this business. And, one of our local competitors that we like, we're good friends, they rent. It's
all over.
They rented and had to close up. So you really need to own the land. So again, as land gets more expensive, it's more challenging. Yeah. But it's still doable. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, any final thoughts?
No, this has been fun. I'm sorry it took so long to get
we
it
love
done.
this so much.
This is great. I'm so glad you came on.
The two of you are still up, so I thought
oh my gosh, I'm like, can we keep going?
I'm like, honestly, I got so many questions I could ask you. That is.
Well, let's do this again down the road.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's the thing you love the most? We'll end on that.
I love being around young people and
really?
listening to the ideas and the energy and you know, the outlook they have towards the future. And, you know, these are challenging times for all of us, you know, the political climate, the you know, the local climate. So, you know, getting up and going to work, you know, most of us have to get up and go to work. I mean, that's just the realities of it. But getting up and going to work and enjoying what you do is, to me, the key. Yep. Because I think we've all been in a position where we got up and dreaded to go to our job. I certainly did back in the day.
Oh, yeah, I used to. And it would give me such bad anxiety.
Yeah. And I think we've all, at one point or another, gone through that. Yeah. Some people more than once, unfortunately. But, you know, I experienced that in my 30s. You know, when I was a partner at a firm, I dreaded going. I didn't like the environment, the atmosphere. It wasn't the way I wanted to run a business. So, you know, as long as you get up in the morning and you're, you know, we have to work, we feel good about it. Yeah. That's all I ask for, you know?
Yeah.
Love that. Well, we hope to have you around for a long time.
Thank you, Kristina.
And if you want to hear young people's ideas, I got them, Ted.
Yeah, sit down. How much time do you have today in the back? We're here all day.
No, but thank you so much for your time and everything, your insights.
Absolutely.
And
it was great.
It really does kind of paint a different picture that, you know, because we sit here and explain things so we're blue in the face. And like you mentioned, you know, we have all these conversations and especially with local authorities and other people as we want to acquire. And it's just kind of like, it's one of those things where I love that we are able to sit back and say, you know what, it's your loss. You know, it's your loss if you don't want to work with us, if you don't want to grow this in your community. You know, it's, as you've mentioned multiple times, we have a great team here. It's very culturally driven. We love what we do. And so, yeah, it's at the forefront, and we love that. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank the two of you very much.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. And
as always, if you like this episode, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, and we'll see you next week on You,
Me,
and the Flea.
See you next week.